you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Bienvenidos, Fright fans. Welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Jaime and Fuego.
I'm Robert Duell.
And we are here to discuss a recent horror film that got a little bit of buzz in 2019 as people were starting to put their best of lists together. It's entitled simply The Wind, although they did retitle it at one point, right? They gave it like a colon, something or other.
I don't remember what it was, though.
Yeah, but if you just search for The Wind 2019, you'll be able to discover it, and it's a Western horror, which we don't typically get these very often. I mean, recent ones like Bone Tomahawk were incredibly effective. We reviewed Burrowers, I think was one that we, the Burrowers is good, and even Tremors, that it has kind of like a horror western-y kind of vibe to it, which I really dig. But this one, while being more of the psychological thriller side of things, still very effective, man. And for like overall impressions and stuff, I was kind of disturbed by this movie. I dug the themes that they dealt with of potential just demonic presence on the prairie, and it also just focused upon the scariness of the isolation of just being out in the middle of nowhere and trying to figure out, like, how can you sustain yourself, you know? And like, what does that all entail? So good performances and kind of a chilling story, which I dug, man. What about you?
No, I'm right there with you and everything. Between the story aspect of the supernatural, the light supernatural aspects, I would say.
Could it or couldn't be, and
exactly.
the mystery of whether it's really there or
and
not.
that actually was a really good play with the story, because when I actually went back and kind of half watched it again, it still, there was parts I'm like, well, did this actually happen?
There's some ambiguousness, which
Yeah,
I dug.
and like the story for that was really well done. Which brought into basically for characters and everything like that, I dug the hell out of. Basically, overall, I liked this movie a lot.
Yeah, definitely recommended from me too, man. And so, like, storyline-wise, it's very simple in the fact that, so you have an established couple that has seemingly been living in this particular area of the presumed West for, New Mexico, is one aspect I forgot, for a while, and then there is a new couple that moves close by to them. Doesn't seem as industrious and like ready to be out in the middle of nowhere, and there's like kind of marital tension between the two of them. The two women form a bond, and the husband of the more well-established couple, he tries to just help out, and he's like, hey, I'll help you, kind of tend some crops and like get things going. They kind of put themselves out there for this couple, and the one woman is kind of a little nuts who has come over, and both women I think are originally of European origin, if I'm not mistaken, because when the established wife is having some of her freak out, she starts talking either, I think it's German, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was,
yeah. But supernatural elements, or are they, start to kind of manifest, and the newer woman, in the other couple, is very just disturbed, and it starts to just sink deeper and deeper into madness, and then that plays with the perceptions of our other more established wife who has befriended her. And there's also time jumps in this movie too, so you do kind of have to pay attention, because it starts later in the story and then it jumps backwards and gives you a backstory introduction of them first becoming friends and stuff. So I don't know, it wasn't like disorientating or anything of that nature, but it was at least the kind of film that you have to pay a little bit more attention to understand the extent of what's really going on. And even then, it leaves some things ambiguous enough for interpretation. But I thought the screenwriting was very effective. There's another, this was directed by a woman, written by a woman, and has two very strong female performances. So, power to that, damn right, as two men reviewing this movie.
Like, they did great. Like, all the actors were awesome. Our main character, what was her name? Lizzie. Lizzie and her husband Gideon.
Yes.
Yep. Those are our two main family, and then you have Emma and what was her husband's name?
Ooh, I can't recall. Unfortunately.
Emma and Isaac and Lizzie were our main couple, and then Gideon and Emma were our secondary couple.
That was the new one that came on the scene.
Yeah, and honestly, their chemistry between each other was great. And then once you found out what was the backstory, or not even really backstory, but the small little plots details with like her husband, and then the other wife and things like that.
And also
then
the weird little book that they're reading, too,
Yeah,
which
but
deals
that-
about all kinds of demons on the prairie sort of thing,
and-
and it gives the like, an explanation of what each one does, and I got some
And that
hereditary
played-
vibes a
Yeah,
little
that
bit
played
there.
really well into, especially like we were talking earlier with the whole isolation
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, and then it starts messing with your basically mental capabilities
Yeah.
of just reasoning in general.
The madness that it breeds from
Yep.
just being in the
Yep.
middle of
And-
nowhere.
and especially with her being isolated for so much of the time during the events of this movie,
Mm-hmm.
especially with when you're jumping back with the flashbacks and everything like we were hit up earlier, if you're not paying attention, it can be kind of easy to get lost on the timeline and where everything's getting played out.
Yeah, because Lizzie was the blondie, right?
Yes.
She
Yes.
was the one who her husband kept having to just go out and like
Yeah.
tend the land essentially and
Yep.
go on like weird little mini missions, and she's being left alone. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
she's spending, hers with that other woman, and other times she's just by herself, and
Yep.
it's just breeding and
But the
brooding. and
the
everything.
most thing though is like with the isolation was all those after moments and everything
Mm-hmm.
after the big bad happened basically when she
Yeah.
really started losing her marbles.
Yeah, when there's a significant reveal that goes down, and I mean, there's pregnancy in play that does play kind of a grisly part in certain aspects and stuff. There is essence of religion from this Reverend character that pops up a little bit as well, but I mean, I just want to segue into performances, man, because Lizzie especially was incredibly effective in this film.
I agree.
Not just like you can tell she's a little bit tougher of a woman, and loyal of a woman, than the other lady who she befriends and stuff
She's
like
woman
that.
of the prairie.
Yeah.
You got to be a hard ass in
Yeah,
order to survive out there.
Yeah, you were a tandem and a team if you were in that era.
Yep.
In that area, man. I mean, it was just
Everybody
you guys
worked.
against the elements. You
Exactly.
had to,
And
you know?
that's the cool thing that they did show with this movie and everything. It's like you basically had to work together in order to try and survive back on, the original when people were settling on the prairie and everything
yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
You had to
there's
work together.
Nothing out there.
Nothing.
It was just you and the elements and survival essentially. And this woman, she's strong, but also has like a love and a loyalty and a vulnerability. There are so many nuances to her performance. She was damn good. I thought the other woman was also solid as well, who kind of sinks in the madness a little bit more so, and then it contagiously.
Yeah, a little
kind of-
quick though. Honestly, I thought like
She was kind of snippy from the beginning, like right when you first meet her, and you sense the relational tension with her and her husband and stuff, and she's like, "Wow, your husband is so industrious, and he made all your furniture and blah blah blah."
Yeah.
And you could tell she was immediately.
it's like, oh, you're a lucky woman. Like,
She was immediately envious, 100%, and it does play a part. But that woman's performance was great. It's really just 4 people essentially that carry the entirety of this film, except for one other.
And
person
even
who
the
shows up.
short stint of when we get for the Reverend and everything, he was great.
He was. Yeah.
He was effective and believable.
In the couple scenes he's in, yeah.
Yeah,
For
like,
sure.
he did a hell of a damn good job, and it goes back to that whole like thing. It's like you don't know whether that actually happened or if it was just kind of a figment.
Yeah.
So
That ambiguity, man. I dig the hell out of it. As far as like the way it was shot and everything, I mean, for a first-time director, she'd done a couple different documentaries before, but she has some acting credits on her IMDb from the 90s and some producer credits, but this is really her first feature.
Yeah.
And what an impressive debut.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the same vibe that I had from S. Craig Zahler when I first saw Bone Tomahawk, for just well shot so skillfully with just the incredible camera movements and just I mean great work with her cinematographer, whoever that was.
Yeah.
Just like finding a terrific setting and just viewpoint for everything. I mean, this
the
this
rolling
was a
hills
terrific looking
especially were
movie.
beautiful in the background and
Oh, yeah.
everything when they had those shots of just the open prairie. Even with the small shots, just the house and everything, how they were lined up. It was especially for like a photography standpoint, how those were lined up was fucking beautiful.
The creepiness of the cabin when it was dimly lit in certain instances.
And the
like,
upshots and everything, the upward angles, like those were really nice and
it
effective.
just added more tension.
It did, yeah, 'cause you felt very small.
Edge. Yeah, just like her.
Yep.
You know? Yeah, she's trying to process so much different stuff. Score was good too, rustic. Kind of the era. Kind of I don't want to say like full on folky or anything of that nature, but it definitely felt the setting and felt the time. And I don't really have a lot of criticism that I can harp upon this film, man. I really dug it. It needs to be seen by more.
It really does. And like you were talking about with like the whole the sound and everything like that, it's like for what it had, it was well done and effective. It wasn't over the top.
Voice change of certain characters
Yeah,
in a couple instances.
the voice changes and everything were really cool and effective. And again, it made it creepy.
Yeah.
And again, especially with how they were setting up the scenes and everything, like the cabin scene, preacher.
Yeah.
Like, that's really all I want to say on that one.
Without spoiling, it's
yeah,
a terrific scene.
That scene with her and preacher was the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Personally.
Really? Okay. I honestly...
I dug the hell out of that scene because again, it made me think. It's like, well, is this actually happening?
There's a couple different sides that we see to the reveal of something that happens with a child, and those bits were really,
that was
really
a heart
tough,
rip right
man.
there.
Yeah,
Because you felt bad for her, and then also too it goes back into, without really spoiling too much, just her mental stability on how she's dealing with all these events, basically.
Because there's different levels of grief that she's going through
Yep.
too. Because it's not just it's not just children stuff. There's relational problems, you know,
Yep.
without really
marital
getting it.
issues.
Exactly on both sides at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Really.
Yep.
So yeah. Man, this is a movie that I definitely recommend the hell out of. I think Robert is there with me on that. Man.
I'm definitely buying this movie. I'm putting it in the collection.
Good job, man. Hell yeah.
So-
You said there was a mobile game?
There is actually a mobile game. So IFC commissioned a 8-bit video game for a promotional thing for the movie.
Yeah.
And I actually checked it out, and it looks pretty neat. Like I'd give it a run and everything. And, like there's actually some scenes in the levels like they had more action than some of the slow burns in the movie.
Which is one thing to mention. It is, at least pacing-wise, a very slow burn type of horror film.
Yeah.
It's an IFC Midnight, you know. IFC Midnight did A Dark Song. They did I Trapped the Devil. So their stuff is definitely very much in that niche of just brooding tension and thrills eventually
But the
coming.
build-up is
slower
worth
reveal
for the
sort of
ending.
thing.
Like that slow burn is definitely worth for the ending of this movie.
Yeah, the ending's great.
Because you're just
It's
like,
satisfying. Some
it
slow
is.
burns don't give you a satisfying finale, unfortunately.
That is very true.
You know, but yeah, this one.
Because she realized how much she messed up.
Oh boy, yeah, it reminds me a little bit of The Lodge, at least as far as tone goes, and just that sort of like, is it or is it not transpiring and whatnot. Stay tuned for our review of that coming very soon. But yes, The Wind, definitely recommended from all of us here on the Horror Show. Cecil liked it too, but it's just been a little while since he'd watched it, so that's why we have Robert and I tackling it. But yeah, a grande gracias, Fright fans. I've been Jaime and Fuego.
Robert Duell.
Make sure to check out our Patreon here in the description below, where you can actually make requests for both feature reviews and commentary stuff. So all kinds of other cool stuff if you want to really be a cool sponsor of the show. We have a boogie box that we send out monthly as well. So check all that stuff out. But yeah, I guess until next time, you scarific peeps, remember, stay scared.